Gather round, me hearties, and let me spin you a yarn about the most peculiar pirate ever sailed the 7 seas, or rather, to ever avoid sailing them. His name was Captain Lynch, but to his crew, and frankly to anyone with a pair of working ears, he was known as Landlubber Lynch. And for good reason. The man was terrified of water. Utterly, completely, pants-sweatingly scared of the big blue. Imagine this, a fearsome pirate captain, cutlass at his side, parrot on his shoulder, who breaks into a cold sweat at the sight of a puddle. He'd command his ship, the Sea Serpent, from the driest part of the deck, shouting orders to avoid big waves and clear skies only. His crew, a rowdy bunch, mostly found it hilarious. They'd plunder coastal towns, but Lynch himself never set foot on a beach if the tide was in. He'd stay on the gangplank, shouting directions. He was a master planner, a brilliant strategist. But the sea, it was his personal monster. One day, during a raid on a merchant vessel, they captured an unusual prize, a quiet, bold monk from a faraway land. The crew wanted to make him walk the plank, but Lynch, seeing the man's serene face, felt a flicker of something other than fear. He locked the monk in his cabin, intending to question him later. That night, a storm hit, not a big one, but enough to make the Sea Serpent rock and roll. Lynch was a wreck. He was huddled in his cabin, shaking, heart pounding like a drum, when he heard a calm voice. It was the monk, whose name was Cale, wasn't scared at all. He watched Lynch with gentle eyes. He didn't mock him. Instead, he spoke of the mind as an ocean, sometimes stormy, sometimes calm. He told Lynch that fear wasn't the water itself, but the storm inside his own head. Cale began to teach him. He taught him to breathe in through the nose, feeling the air fill his lungs, and out through the mouth, slow and steady. He told him to notice the feeling of the solid deck beneath his feet, to focus on the present moment, not the roaring what-ifs of the waves. Every day, Lynch practiced. He'd sit on the deck, at first far from the edge, just breathing. He'd close his eyes and listen to the creak of the ship, the call of the gulls, the distant crash of waves. He learned not to fight the fear, but to acknowledge it, like a passing cloud in the sky of his mind. He'd tell himself, there is the fear, and then he'd breathe, and focus on the feeling of the rope in his hands. His crew noticed the change. He was still cautious, but the frantic terror in his eyes was replaced by a focused calm. The real test came weeks later. They were chasing a Spanish treasure galleon, loaded with gold. A massive squall blew in, a monster of a storm that would have sent the old Lynch into a gibbering mess. The crew was panicking, sails were tearing, and the waves were mountains of dark, angry water. But Captain Lynch stood at the helm, rain and spray lashing his face. He wasn't fearless. Oh no, the fear was there, roaring in his ears. But this time, he wasn't its prisoner. He breathed in and out. He felt the ship's wheel, solid under his hands. He saw the fear, but he also saw his crew, his ship, and the path through the storm. He started giving orders, his voice clear and steady, cutting through the howl of the wind. He guided them through the tempest, his hands sure, his mind clear. They didn't just survive the storm, they sailed through it. When dawn broke, the sea was calm. The crew looked at their captain, no longer Landlubber Lynch, but Captain Lynch, the man who faced down the ocean itself. He walked to the edge of the ship, looked down at the gentle blue water, and for the first time, he smiled. He hadn't conquered the sea. He had conquered himself. And that, me hearties, is how a landlubber became a legend.